Tonight with Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik from New York. She is in Georgia tonight as a surrogate for the Loeffler-Purdue campaigns. Congresswoman, great to have you with us.
Good to be with you, Shannon.
So Mark Elias, one of the key attorneys in a number of these election disputes, says this in a tweet. He says Republicans tried to disenfranchise over 300,000 Georgia voters. This victory, meaning the judge, Stacey Abrams' sister, throwing this out, says it means 4,000 voters in 2 counties are protected. We'll continue to monitor how other Georgia counties respond to the suppression scheme. Where necessary, we will sue and we will win. Now, what I've read about this, these were people who had signed off on change of address notification forms with the United States Postal Service, so they were taken off the rolls. And yet this judge says that was wrong, and Democrats are calling this an effort at GOP voter suppression. What do you say?
This is about ensuring that only legal voters cast their votes. Mark Elias is a far-left radical attorney who was one of the perpetrators of the Russia hoax. He works for every far-left socialist candidate in the country. What I believe and what I think Georgians believe is we need to make sure that only legal votes are cast, that we have ballot integrity and election security. And when it comes to the judge in this case, this judge is the sister of Stacey Abrams, who is running the voter registration process for the Democrats in the state of Georgia. This judge should recuse herself because of the conflict of interest that's very clear to every American and every Georgian watching today.
Well, one of the counties did file a motion asking her to recuse herself. My understanding is she said no, she's going to continue on with the case, and she issued that ruling. So here's a bit of what Stacey Abrams said about this whole issue of voter suppression.
When we create access to the right to vote for eligible citizens, more people participate. And Republicans do not know how to win without voter suppression as one of their tools.
These polls down there are razor-thin margins, as we said at the top of the show. Stacey Abrams says the GOP can't win without voter suppression. How do you respond to her and that claim?
We are going to win if our voters turn out, and as long as Democrats don't try to pursue people registered who shouldn't legally be registered in the state of Georgia. It is a fact, Shannon, that far-left activists are registering themselves in Georgia who don't even live in the state of Georgia. I believe, just like my district in upstate New York, I'm elected to serve the people of New York's 21st district. Georgians who legally live here should be the determinant of who serves them in the Senate. So I support Senators Loeffler and Purdue, and I support really calling into question the fact that the judge in this case has a very clear conflict of interest in that is the sister of Stacey Abrams.
Let's talk about the moderate voters there. With these margins as tight as they are, you all need every vote. The GOP needs every vote to try to win one or both of these seats there. The Washington Post talks about this. They say Georgia Senate runoffs test whether Trump remains a poison for moderate GOP voters. They go on to say these voters do not fit the image of the MAGA hat-wearing Trump backers. While they tend to be conservative on economic issues and skeptical of socialist ideas, their distaste for Trump has left them without a clear political home. What is your argument to moderate GOP voters there in Georgia?
Well, first of all, President Trump has grown this party. President Trump earned more votes than any Republican candidate in the history when he ran for president. He is going to help fuel voter turnout, and I think it's a strength that Senator Loeffler and Senator Purdue are strong political allies and supporters of President Trump, who is fighting on behalf of the American people and Georgians. So I think this is a big tent Republican party, and what's very clear is these 2 Democratic candidates are part of the radical far left. They stand for positions like defunding the police. They want a government takeover of health care. Those are not moderate positions. Those are radical far-left socialist positions.
So let's talk about some new FNC polling that we have here at Fox News. This is about if you're less likely to vote in the next presidential election, maybe because of what you've experienced this time around. But at the top of the list, we see Trump voters, 19% of them, Republicans, 16% of them. I mean, that I'm not going to do the math on the fly because I know I'll get it wrong, but I think it's around 35% is my best guess. But that's a big chunk of voters who say they're not going to vote the next time around in the presidential election. They may be smarting off of what they've seen this time and the claims about things being unfair, not being transparent at the very least. So what are your worries there in Georgia that some people may be so distasteful of the system at this point that they don't feel like it's worth it for them to show up and vote?
Well, every voter should know that we have made significant investments. There will be thousands of poll watchers. This is something that the RNC, as well as the Republican Senate majority, is really focused on, as well as the Georgia GOP, making sure that we have ballot integrity and security in our election system. Every vote matters, and we need to make sure that every Republican voter turns out, because if our voter turns out, we win. We cannot hand over the control of the United States Senate to Chuck Schumer. I see it in New York, how radical far left he is. He does not represent mainstream America. Certainly, he doesn't represent my district or mainstream Georgia. So for those, we need them to turn out to vote. Early vote is now until Thursday or in person on Election Day. Every vote's going to matter in this race.
So what's the strategy coming down the final stretch?
The strategy coming down the final stretch is turning out that early vote. We continue to work really hard. People are knocking on over 300,000 doors a day, making millions of voter contacts. We need to make sure that every single vote turns out. I know that Senators Perdue and Loeffler are crisscrossing the state. I was in Gwinnett County as well as Augusta today, and people are excited. People are turning out to vote. We just need to sprint to the finish line and have a win on January 5th.
Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, great to see you tonight. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Shannon.